Welcome to WagerTalk TV, guys. I am Kelly Stewart, joined by the infamous Ralph Michaels.
Infamous.
Yeah, I know. I thought it worked well.
Gotcha.
Anyway, so this is TNA, guys. Trends and angles, college tournaments going on right now. We had a few just in, but Ralph, you've got some really interesting trends. Anything you want to touch on prior to going over some of these?
Well, you know, we're not really going to talk trends today. We're going to talk systems. The difference being trends being team specific. But if we're doing a video and a team gets knocked out, the trend is irrelevant. So a system's going to apply to any team in the tournament. You know, one thing you have to look at is these conference tournaments now are changing year in and year out. The Sun Belt, for example, really wants to protect their number 1 and 2 seed. So what they did is the 7 and 10 seeds played last night on Tuesday. Then they moved to New Orleans. They only play 2 games, 2 games, and 2 games. So you could have a situation where if a 7 through 10 seed advances, they could be playing a 5th game in 6 days. If they're facing a number 1 or 2 seed, it'll be the 2nd game in 6 days for the 1 or 2 seed. So the conferences are just, they don't want their top teams to get knocked out. So they're giving huge advantages, double buys in situations that apply. So, you know, one thing that, you know, let's start off with double buys. And, you know, the nice thing about the database we have and that people can use, if you go to killersports.com, some of those databases are at WagerTalk, but I get this information, killersports.com. Anyone could look it up. It's not privy just to me. You would think that a team that has a double bye or a team with rest facing a team that has played 3 straight games, a positive or a negative?
Well, you would think it would be a positive.
You ask 9 out of 10 people, they're going to say a positive. It doesn't happen that often, but in that situation since 2002, the rested team against a team playing a third game in 3 days, 4 and 14 against the spread.
Wow.
Now, 4 and 14 is a good number to play against, but how about if I told you this? The average line is 9.8 points per game. Those teams are only 11 and 7 straight up. Imagine you on your money lines,
I like
7
that.
dogs, 10-point dogs out of 18 have won those games straight up, playing a third game against a rested team. So again, look at it against the spread and look at it on the money line if you want to take one of those teams.
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about teams that start really kind of, we'll call it tanking ATS towards the end of the season. They haven't covered at least their last 4 games. I'm starting to look at, hey, maybe they've hit rock bottom. Maybe I want to still play on this team now that they're in the conference tournament.
You know, again, this depends on how you handicap. But I read a lot of newspapers daily. And, you know, whenever you read a newspaper from a team that's doing poorly down the stretch, inevitably you're going to read, oh, it's a fresh start for us. We can turn it around. We finished the season poorly. We now have time to adjust. Well, that's BS. Teams that have lost their last 4 games against the spread going into a conference tournament play, again, all of these records are only in conference tournament action, 21 and 39, 35%. If you're playing poorly going into the tournament, more often than not, you're going to play poorly in the tournament. Couple games for Thursday. These teams were filming on Wednesday, so if you're watching this video Wednesday night or Thursday, the teams that fall into the situation that you want to fade on Thursday are Fullerton, East Carolina, and Buffalo. You know, we all know the Buffalo Bulls are a MAC team, but they've lost their last 4. And now, again, they're going to be a big favorite against the spread.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be straight up. It just means you are underachieving versus Vegas expectations.
Well, and as they should. I mean, they exceeded Vegas expectations most of the year, so at some point in time, we were going to see that regression. Okay, another situation that you tweeted about the other day that was really interesting, obviously this only applies to conference tournaments, but back-to-back revenge here. So teams possibly looking to, that are playing another team that's beat them twice now.
Yeah, you know, beating a team 3rd time is something we hear very often in conference tournaments. And against the spread, it's basically 50%. But when you have a team that's lost at least 2 straight to a foe, and they're a favorite of 3.5. So despite the losses, they're the better team in Vegas's perception. Those teams are now 31-16-1, 66% against the spread. That's since 2015. And on Thursday, that would be Iowa State against Baylor. So Iowa State's off, couple losses to Baylor. It could be this year or the past few years. And again, they're now a favorite of 3.5 or more.
Interesting. Okay, last but not least, so you mentioned how some of these teams are kind of forced to play night in and night out or every other night in a small stretch. But some of these games are going to overtime. So not only are you not rested, now you had to play overtime either the night before or the previous night. What does your database say about that?
Well, you have a team, and again, we're going to see this happen quite a few times in the tournament here, I think, in the next few days. If you have a team that's playing with no rest and is off an overtime game, it's pretty simple. The next day, the better team wins. If you are a favorite against a team who went into overtime and has no rest, you're 10-5, 67% since 2012. If you are a dog against a team that was in overtime, the dog did poorly, 2-7
really?
Straight up in ATS since 2012. So really, if a team is off an overtime game, if you're a dog to that team, you lose. If you're a favorite to that team, you win. It really is just the better team has covered the next game, regardless of the situation.
That's awesome stuff from Ralph Michaels. Guys, this video was sponsored by uwager.eu. Get a 50% sign-up bonus when using promo code WT50 when signing up. This offer is exclusive to WagerTalk.